I mean, let's talk about the user interface to jump today. I mean, I've heard it said that whoever has the best user interface wins. End of story. Well, yes, except if you're the BBC and you can advertise your user interface in between every program. That does give you a bit of an advantage. But certainly the UI is going to be the crossroads between the managed service that somebody may have in their household now and the availability of the open internet on their television. Now, for now, pay TV providers, as far as I can see, have absolutely no incentive to go outside of the walled garden of their UI. Because they make more money than God by people staying within it. Now, of course, the question is that just about content? And as long as they still have the content that people want to watch, they may access it through somebody else's user interface, but that's still their business. Right. Or is it right? Lose the UI, lose the viewer?
I think if you lose the UI, you probably do lose the viewer. I think it's extremely important that if you're going to get people to adopt over the top, at least for part of their viewing as well as live TV, you have to combine the user interface for your live television with your on-demand in some seamless way that the users can use it very, very easily. So I think if you have to press the AV button on your television remote control to go to some other box or switch between boxes, you've lost 90% of the audience. So it's really important to integrate everything seamlessly within, whether it's the user interface within the connected TV or the user interface within the set-top box. So I would say that we're already seeing people integrating what you might consider to be competitive services within their environment, because it's better to have them on the box and not having to press that AV button and lose 90% of the audience.
So is it a case of who dares wins? I mean the pay TV operator or the managed network supplier who has the courage to bring potentially competing services into his UI is more likely to...
I think it's a repeat of, we had a bit of that kind of EPG wars. It's like, I won't provide you my service on your EPG, I'll keep it only on terrestrial. And there was the point where you'd have to press the AV button to get the other one in linear television. I think we're going to go through the same kind of argument about what's in it for a broadcaster or a channel. It's probably better to have his channel integrated within a great UI, so that he gets a chance of getting his content in front of the eyeballs of the public.
How do you see this playing out?
Well, first of all, the user interface is a key differentiator for operators going forward. That's very clear. What I would actually do is change the language slightly. It's really the user experience. It's not just the way the pixels look on the screen, it's actually the overall experience the consumer has in the way the remote control works, even down to how nice a call center is when they phone it up. It's the overall user experience they provide. And that's, operators who have a direct customer relationship with consumers have a real advantage to provide a fully packaged user experience. In terms of sort of user interface and mixing user interface from different providers, I think what we absolutely agree that there needs to be that consumers are looking for one UI, one set of navigation principles that they can learn and use on their set-top boxes, be comfortable with. What we have to find out is how you can take user interfaces and add in brands and experiences from other providers. Because that's another thing that consumers want. They want personalization and they want choice. And I think if we go to the mobile market, which you were alluding to, was that if you look at the way that iPhone and Android phones work in terms of having a central user experience that's provided by a trusted party, Apple, Google, and then applications that you can access on top of that, other brands that can then take over that user experience but not taking you too far away from your comfort. And probably the best example of where that's working in the UK is where the BBC iPlayer is available on Virgin. Not that it's that great a user experience from Virgin, but still you're never that far from the comfort of the Virgin service but you are immersed in a BBC brand while you're using iPlayer on a Virgin set-top box.
But on the other hand, doesn't that also typify some of the dangers? Because Virgin is always very proud of the fact that N million iPlayer views on its servers, and I don't know, 60% or something sometimes. It's some enormous number. Well, that's kind of great, but it means they're not watching a Virgin program. They're not choosing a Virgin VOD.
They're not, yeah, absolutely. But in this over-the-top world, we need operators need to provide all the choices to consumers. If they say I'm not going to provide iPlayer, then people are going to turn off their set-top boxes, go and switch on their PC, because content is the key thing. Consumers want to go and get that content however they can, and so it's an imperative for operators to enable those services. What they need to do is work out how they reinforce their position, upsell and cross-sell when people are potentially taking content direct from another source over the top on their device.
So, Gianluca, you're in the business of getting people to change their UI because you want them to use yours. Now, presumably you'll white label it for service providers that you go with, but have you thought about having it as a third-party available independent UI?
So yes, as a small company, we would have a long time to go to push our own UI. So we decided we don't do the UI. We just provide, well, Best TV, basically the technology, just briefly, just so that we understand where we fit. There is a server component that collects the content in order to be pushed into the set-top box. And there is a client component which receives this content and put it into the hard drive. That's all we do. We don't present that content. We integrate into any existing middleware. We use whatever user interface the operator decide is the user interface to use. We even let them choose conditional access and a set-top box manufacturer if they want to. Of course, if in some cases, like in Mediaset, our biggest commercial deployment, they asked us for the first release of the box to do the user interface. We did it because it's a big customer, he is asking us to, and we will do it. But it's not just our business. There are companies that do that much better than us. So we stay completely out of it. Of course, watching from the sidelines the battle that is going on to own that space.
Is it possible that there could be a third-party UI come along that begins to become dominant? I mean, at the end of the day, the different phone networks who have the similar relationship with their customers as pay television operators, everybody had a bit of this and a bit of that and trying to make the UI a bit better. And then the iPhone comes along and everybody goes, oh my God, so that's how we should do it. If somebody comes along in television and suddenly has something as intuitive as the iPhone, does a pay TV operator maybe say, do you know what, I can't replicate that, that's going crazy in the marketplace. My business is just to make sure that I'm supplying the best possible pay TV alternatives through that UI, if that's what they want to use?
Personally, I don't think that will happen. I think an operator will always want some control over his user interface.
Because they've got too much to lose.
And they'll want it to be within their control, and there's no reason why it can't be in their control. So we have a design services division that will design user interfaces for operators so that they can get what they think is the best user experience. I don't think they're going to easily hand it off to a third party to do that for them.
That is the danger, isn't it? This disintermediation that you talked about at the beginning. So you think the pay TV operator or the network operator has to be brave enough to let some in, some over-the-top services to keep his customer happy, but on the other hand, has to defend his position so firmly.
I think they'll definitely, in the same way that they have channels that aren't their own on their platforms, they'll have over-the-top services that come from third parties. That will happen. So I don't think it's brave. I just think it's natural.
So on the sort of iPhone question, sort of mentioning about whether there's a TV UI that comes in that could sort of have a revolutionary effect like the iPhone, the thing that I want to point about the iPhone is what Apple have been able to do is really take control of monetizing any new services that come to the phone. So the mobile phone operators, they can monetize telephone calls and SMS messages, but everything else is controlled and monetized by Apple. And I just don't see that service providers, be they telcos, cable operators or satellite operators, are going to be prepared to give up that control over monetization. So they're going to let brands come in, they're going to let apps run on their devices, but only when they control that when a transaction takes place, they take a share of it. When an advert is delivered with their information, that they take a cut of that.